每次说到新人这个话题，都会想起刚刚创立 LPL 的初期。那个时候，我们内心最多的就是憧憬。
我那年看到的新人身上都有种血气方刚的特质，那种对奖杯的渴望，现在回想起来，都还有些热血沸腾。反杀掉了克利达。
2015年的新人们都面临着巨大的挑战。那一年的 LPL 开启了变革的大门，他们必须在前所未有的激烈竞争中生存。
我刚来的时候 ，LPL 正面临着前所未有的困境。正是在这样的环境中，联赛的心率悄悄地开始萌芽。
初次登上这个舞台，我看到了 LPL 终于摆脱了过往的桎梏，齐心合力，我们把希望寄托于未来。
关于和 LPL 的初次相遇，我们都有着不同的记忆。这局游戏期待新的面孔。新年来了，我们也将为自己的故事写下序章。
We are halfway through week 4 of the LPL. The teams have returned from their Chinese New Year breaks and are getting ready for the rest of their cross-conference matches. That battle between East and West continues today, live from the Super Red Mall Arena here in Shanghai. 2 matches will be played today. First up, it's going to be TOP going up against Vici, both of which are preparing backstage for that match. These 2 teams currently on a losing spree, looking to pick up their first victory, followed by Invictus Gaming, who are currently 6-1 and dominant, go up against OMG, who will play their final game here in Shanghai before moving to their home arena in Chengdu. Xin Hao, hello everyone, and welcome back to the English broadcast of the Chinese LPL. We hope that everyone back at home had a fantastic Chinese New Year. I'm Matthew Stewart. Joining me is Brento Raz Mohammed. Raz, first Chinese New Year in Shanghai. How was it?
I mean, all I really did was just bunker down in my own house, played a lot of solo queue, a little bit of League of Legends, and, I mean, I just learned the language.
Well, that's great to hear. You learned the language. How'd you do in solo queue, though, you know? Did you get any ELO?
A little bit. Just a little bit.
Well, I hope everyone back at home got more than just a little bit of ELO while we were on break there, because,
Come on, man.
Raz, come on, a little bit's just not enough. But let's take a look at where we left off before we went into that Chinese New Year break. Up at the top of the table in the LPL, it's going to be Snake as well as Invictus Gaming, who are currently 6-1. Contrasting that is Vici and TOP, who are 0-7, yet to pick up a single victory in the LPL.
That's really the name of the game here, of course. The Eastern Conference. We'll see IG later on going up against OMG. But it's fun to see just how different our expectations are changing from the beginning of the split, this point of the split. Rogue Warriors starting to find their kind of vibe. 3 wins in a row, now finding themselves 5-2, just behind IG.
And all those games were played on patch 8.1. Bringing in a new year, we also have a new patch. We're moving on to patch 8.
谢官方合作伙伴多利多姿玉米片，多利多姿放胆来势，以及喝战马主动战能量满满。
You have to rethink the way they're playing the game at the moment.
Yep, this is the first real meta change when it comes to the LPL, now finding themselves in a new patch. And what we're seeing, of course, Relic Shield, might not be seeing them in the 80 carries just because you're having 50% reduced effectiveness of the healing on them. So we're going to be seeing a lot more, I would say, impactful early games in the bottom lane. But the 3 teams here that I'm looking at immediately are BLG, Snake, and Suning Gaming that had a lot of top lane pressure for themselves. Sha'al, I don't think he's going to be seeing a lot of Vladimir play just because he lost out in his supportive itemizing. And also, of course, BLG going towards the Camille. They were so impacted just by on the top lane alone. I want to see what happens when we see a lot more focus go towards the bottom side of the map. And of course, I just threw out an RNG. I want to see how they are going into this. Because, of course, they brought in Zatai.
Yep.
And, of course, the bottom lane, a lot of questions of who's going to be manning the bottom side of the map.
That's right, no Rover heal for Relic Shield either, no more Sightstone in the bottom lane. And whenever it's bottom lane, you've got to take a look at RNG. Uzi's been rumored to potentially come back as well. We haven't seen him in so long, so it's excited to see if he will be playing for RNG. But these 4 teams will not be playing today. They're just teams that we thought they'd be good to watch out for. These are the teams that will be playing here today. It's going to be OMG taking on IG later on today. As we mentioned, OMG's last game here in Shanghai before they move to their home stadium. And Invictus Gaming undefeated with the Shy so far, and that's gonna be the second match today. First up though, TOP and Vici, Raz. These 2 teams, one of them will finally pick up a victory here in the LPL.
Yeah, and you have to believe that both of these teams were the only teams in the LPL that really didn't take a break during the Chinese New Year break, because they were starting to bolster their lineup, realize that they needed to go back to the drawing board, figure out what was really wrong for themselves. TOP is a good case because initially they're even putting Moyu just to see if they could have a carry top side of the map. That didn't work out well for themselves, so they really got themselves a big heavy hitter in Marin. Marin, an incredible name. We were all wondering where he was going to land when he didn't have a team for so long. And we were like, maybe he's coming to the LPL, maybe he's back in the LCK, maybe TCL. Where is Marin? He's finally on TOP, which means that they have a real carry top side of the map they can focus on. Korn, of course, has a lot of early game pressure for his teams, been around. We've seen him in Newbie, we've seen him in Starhorn Royal Club. Really good for TOP.
I mean, these are two players being signed for TOP who have played in a World Championships finals. Marin won one. Now he's going up against his ex-teammate of Vici here on the side of Vici. But one thing we really have to take note of is Marin's played in the LPL before. Before he moved back to the LCK, he was signed as the top laner for LGD a couple of years ago now, Raz. And at that time, LGD were at their peak. They were playing very well, and after bringing on Marin, it didn't look too good for LGD. Now he's being signed to a bottom-of-the-table team. It's a big contrast and difference.
Yeah, because when you see the success for Marin, it's been on a Freak of Freaks, it's been on SKT, but the molding, the melding, being on a Chinese roster, that is a big question. It didn't work out for LGD, and you have to wonder if he's going to be in an environment that allows him to work out in TOP. I think regardless of that communication issue, it's just a stark increase in the skill in the lineup, because they really did need just a lane that they can play through, while LGD didn't have that worry. They already had phenomenal players, so communication is not going to be the first thing they focus on if you're TOP.
And that's two big top side changes for the side of TOP moving into their first match here today. On the flip side, Vici, who are known as a top sided team, they like to play towards the top side of the map. They also have a new signing coming in. They're playing with Crash, who played in the World Championship for 1907 for Nabache. Now they brought in a new jungler of Swift, who has also played here in the LPL before.
Yeah, I was a bit surprised at how ineffective Crash was coming into the LPL, because even in the LSPL, he was just a very impactful, aggressive early game jungler, and we didn't get to see that at all. His pathings were very passive a lot of the times, going for full clears, even when he had a proper jungle matchup. So bringing in Swift is another change that we have to look towards, because it means that Vici should have a stylistic change. When we were talking about Newbie, when we were talking about Swift and what he did for Newbie, that meant that they were such a jungle-focused team, they would have to play towards him regardless of who joined the roster. We were talking about cool, top side of the map. No matter the major changes that happened to Newbie, it was this Swift show. So I get to see if he can actually have that major impact when it comes to Vici as well.
And hopefully be able to see that, because as you mentioned, we didn't see that major aggression coming out from Crash so far when he's been playing for Vici. Now Swift can try and do that. We'll help out with the veteran of Easy, who can play against his former teammate of Marin, but the man laning against Marin, that's going to be Meow in the top lane.
Yeah, I was wondering about this one, because Luong, we were waiting for him to play. We were waiting for Luong to come onto the map. He finally did, and he had some great team fighting. But we weren't waiting for him because Meow was playing poorly. Meow was playing well. In fact, a lot of his Cho'Gath games are pretty decent in lane, and his constant Fiora play, I thought was good. There was just no jungle pressure on the top side of the map. A lot of times he was getting dived, 2v1, 3v1. We get to see if that gets impacted, if his play looks a lot better, and it's going to be an interesting sight to see if he can challenge Marin on the top side of the map.
Which is really interesting, because Marin, as well as Korn, superstar signings coming out for the TOP. These are two players that played in the World Championship finals, as we mentioned. But we saw when Marin was signed to LGD, junglers would constantly pay attention to that top lane whenever he was in the top lane for LGD, Raz.
Yep.
Now you've got Swift, who likes to do just that. Meow must be feeling pretty happy about that one.
He has to feel that way. I think that immediately, if I look towards how Vici wants to play the game out, he might go towards the top lane, he might look towards ganks. A lot of times lanes play towards him, so I'm more worried for Karn going into this one, just because maybe Karn's going to get invaded quite a bit. Maybe they go into game 2, they have to bring in XX, and that's going to be a major point of focus. So it feels like if it's any indication of what Swift used to play like, then we might see two different styles. Game 1's going to be the major indicator of what we get to see out of each game.
3 players we have not seen in a while, who have all played at the top of, or at the peak of League of Legends competitive play in the LPL, as well as around the world. On top of that, as we mentioned at the start of the show, patch changes have come in. It's 8.2. Bottom lane has been shaken up. And that's the one part of the map that we haven't really touched on between these two teams. Cho and Cat going up against Martin and Caveman. Potentially, if it's such a top-side focused game, it could all boil down to that little bit of difference in the bottom lane, Raz.
It could. I actually want to see what we get out of Cho and Cat, because we saw saw them kind of dabble a little bit with Zion Rakan. And Zion Rakan has been a pretty big focus, I would say, globally. So if that's going to be something to go back to, maybe even going back to the whole exhaust ignite for Cat, that could be easy pressure that they get in the laning phase. So immediately, first point of focus going to be the laning phase. Speaking of laners, TOP, Marin in the top lane, Karn in the jungle, Korn mid lane manning that helm, Choo Choo and Cat rounding out their bottom lane.
TOP bringing in Marin, former World Championship versus Korn, a finalist for Sahan Royal Club when they made it to the World Championship Finals. They're still 0-7, looking to pick up their first victory. They've had a losing spree since last season, Raz, whereas Vici, the team newly promoted from the LSPL, they made it back to the LPL, yet to make a name for themselves so far this split. Meow, Swift, Easy Hoon, Martin and Caveman.
And of course, the bottom side of the map that's been kept the same throughout the split, for me, not even a big focus because they've been unimpactful in how they roam out. Like, bottom lane's not roaming when they should. They're just kind of keeping to their lanes. They're keeping even. Same's happening for Easy Hoon. So it's going to be Meow and Swift to make the early point in the game to see if they can upset TOP.
Heavyweight matchup in the top side of map between TOP as well as Vici. And we already mentioned lots of changes coming into 8.2. One of these two teams will walk home with a victory today, and it starts with that first game. And we're about to get into that first match.
You're exactly right, Fish. One of these two teams is going to have to walk away with the win. Welcome back, everyone. I'm Dom. This is Rusty. We are about to get into TOP versus Vici. Former teammates going head-to-head. Marin versus Easy Hoon. Two world champions.
Yep.
On the last place teams in the LPL, who haven't had a win in over 200 days for both of these teams.
And for what it's worth, Marin hasn't played yet, so Easy Hoon has actually been a part of the team going 0-7 and starting the split off super poorly. But he's also got a new jungler backing him up, and that is the place that you do look at a lot of these rosters. A lot of the rosters have changed. Is the team identity even the same between them all? What has actually changed about these teams? And yes, they brought in a former world champion of Marin. He's been in the LPL before. It's his home away from home. He went to a Freak of Freaks for the 2016-2017 season, and he disappeared for the first half of the first split in spring. But he's back now. He's found a new team in the LPL. And of all teams for Marin to join, he does find himself on the team that does not have a single victory.
Yeah, TOP Sports Gaming. 244 days since their last victory in the LPL in summer split of last year. And Rusty, that's an important point that you actually talked about just a moment ago, how these team styles are going to change coming into this matchup. It looks like we're about to get into pick and ban, and that's heavily going to influence that. So we'll have to see how things change up, because Vici, with the likes of Swift on their side, they could look for something a little aggressive. We'll see if the picks and bans get unique as a result of this, but for now, we're getting right on in. Rise, Vladimir, and Azir banned away. Caitlyn, Zoe, and Gnar stricken away from the other side. Of course, gotta respect the world champion. And Galio is the first pickup for Korn.
Of course, if you saw the LPL in 2016 when Marin was here, he loved himself some Kennen, but he also got camped to high heaven, so it wasn't a great experience for him. Don't expect that to be seen here. And when you reference the draft, we are, of course, in that draft phase. I don't think pick change will be massively evident. I think you'll still see very similar picks between most of the teams. Staying mostly standard to the meta. Of course, we're on 8.2. They've seen other regions play on 8.2 for a significant amount of time, and they should be very aware of what is strong.
Yeah, you're exactly right. Immediately, that Camille picked up by Meow in the top lane. He's had a propensity towards those carry top laners, and his opponent is Marin on the other side. So already, Vici perhaps respecting that, but TOP, they're going to let Marin drop down to low priority as they pick themselves up the Galio, and then Zaya and Rakan. Easy Hoon immediately with the Cassiopeia. Have they been practicing this draft backstage or something?
Depends on what you mean by low priority firstly, but yeah, they're going very quickly, Tom. Never one without the other, however, is the Zaya and Rakan. So you pick one, you have to pick the next one. Marin being low on the priority list isn't necessarily true. Okay. Just because they're going through a second ban phase, Camille can flex into the jungle as well, and they may want to flesh out exactly where that is going. And that may actually get reflected through the current bans. If they get rid of junglers, they may expect Meow to play it. He's a carry player in the top lane. But if they ban away top laners, then maybe they're not actually too sure of where the Camille's going, and Swift could pick it up. He is aggressive.
Yeah, he very well could. of course, the Gangplank being banned away now from Vici. So TOP seem to be expecting that Camille to go towards Swift, the very aggressive jungler from Newbie. We'll see how they try to follow this up here. And you're exactly right. The concern is that Marin gets more of his champion pool banned away, but so far it looks like Vici, they're just leaving him to fend for himself right now, as that's a Jarvan ban afterwards. This is already shaping up to be quite interesting.
With only the Gnar and Gangplank now removed, I don't expect anything like the Ornn to be banned as well. But Marin does love himself some carry, so we'll have to see how the top lane does progress. However, we have shifted our focus a little bit from the side of TOP with their second ban being a Kalista. Now, they had the Xayah Rakan locked in. They knew that AD carry was going to be an early priority for Vici because their last pick will reveal the flex of where the Camille is going, and that's standard strategy here from Vici. So TOP, they get rid of the 180 carry they don't want to deal with.
Yeah, that Kalista stricken away, still so very strong, able to pull supports away or even throw them in, depending on this correct situation. Ezreal is the pickup for Martin, something nice and safe, good stability, good poke. Even though we did receive some slight nerfs in 8.2, Kha'Zix is the follow-up for Karen in the jungle. And this could be Marin saying, let me carry, let me play my favorite champion, that Kennen, as he's hovering over it.
It is one of his favorites, and I wouldn't be surprised to see it picked here. Kennen still a super strong pick, and it's pretty much a Marin staple. It transcends metas to a degree as well with Marin, but he has got other options, and this is an abstract
He's got
version.
his hand off the mouse, Rusty. Okay.
How do you have your hand off the mouse and change with 0 seconds, Tom?
Hand off the wheel. He had the hand warmer in his hands. He was ready, and then he put it back down and swapped over at the last second. So Kennen locked in for Marin in the top lane. Vici Gaming, they now have the opportunity to flex this Camille if they like, or send it up towards the top lane. Rusty, if I know anything about Yasuos in China,
what is it?
They have a propensity to bring down the scoreboard in solo queue. That said, we do not have a Yasuo. We've got ourselves an Ornn locked in for Meow.
I will say that is not just a China thing, but with the Ornn locked in, they have secured that tank in the top lane. Now, it's into the Kennen matchup, so it does, of course, reveal the Camille will be going into the jungle in the hands of Swift. We're seeing a lot more jungle Camille in the first place anyway, so not really a revolutionary decision here from Vici. Just good drafting from them overall and saving that flex, being on the red side, utilizing that appropriately. The early rotation of the Braum actually still very good into Xayah and Rakan as a duo. So overall, Vici's drafting on an individual level, and to a degree, the composition does actually look quite sound.
Yeah, it certainly does. Seeing Swift taking the likes of that very mobile Camille. She's got very strong ganks. This is something that I wanted to talk about a little bit beforehand, was how the playstyles could change with these new players coming in. Korn and Marin for TOP, but Swift for Vici Gaming. If ever you were to put a player onto Vici Gaming that seemed antithetical to the style of the team, it would be Swift on Vici for the LPL. So aggressive.
You say that, but you have to think about who their jungler was before Swift.
Exactly.
And it was Crash, someone that went to Worlds, changed an entire team's play style to being aggressive, and they came out in interviews saying that we have to play aggressive to actually suit the style of Crash. And now he comes into the LPL, and I don't think we've seen Crash play as well as he did at Worlds since that date. He's actually come back, he's been underperforming massively, and now Swift takes the reins of the jungle position. He is aggressive. Whether you like it or not, you will not convert Swift into a passive jungler. He will go forwards, he will make plays, and you have to work around that. And I do actually believe that Vici were missing that part of their team.
Fire, perhaps.
Yeah, that style just wasn't there at all, was never evident. And if they lose early games, they just lost games slowly.
Yeah, well, I mean, they've got Swift on Camille going to be going up against this. Already on your screen, though, you can see Marin versus EasyHoon, two former teammates from the same organization, SK Telecom T1, both winners of the 2015 World Championship. Now going head-to-head here in China. And look at that face on Marin. He means business.
Yeah, he does.
He's looking into your soul.
He's actually covered for blood. Holy moly.
Really wanted that. But the two former teammates about to clash on an entirely different stage. Of course, no newcomers to adversity, as they have played against each other before, but now the fans cheering on their teams despite both of them being 0 and 7. It's time for that to change.
Well, TOP fans have a whole new reason to support their roster. You can see that in the bottom left of your screen as well. One player can make the difference, and they were out in force today to support TOP. Marin, the big carry of the roster now, they should put a lot of attention and focus towards that lane. And we mentioned what Vici might do differently with Swift in the jungle role. Perhaps he provides more aggression, more insight for the team in invading the jungle one-on-one sense through that role. He's picked a champion to do exactly that with the duelist of Camille. But for Marin on the top side, last time we saw him, he was camped. There were 4 people in his lane constantly when he was on LGD, and nobody came to help the poor guy as he just slowly died and lost more and more. But he was on LGD. This is a new leaf. This is a new dawn. And he's got Cat and Choo Choo in the bottom lane. They are a very strong roaming duo. They love to switch to top lane randomly. You'd expect that Karen, more cerebral in the jungle role, more methodical and slow, will be able to detect Swift at the very least and try and keep 4 people away from that lane.
It even seems to be something that TOP were conscientious of in their picks for this game. Galio picked up for Korn. Huge mobility with that hero's entrance and a teleport on top of that. So TOP seemed to be very aware of what previously worked against Marin. Though we do see the Unsealed Spellbook and Ignite, so perhaps a bit of flexibility for Marin in that as well. If he doesn't decide to go for the crazy aggressive carry early on, he's got some room to look for the big teleport flanks later on in the game.
Yeah, just that standard Ignite for laning pressure as well. Meow's had to go towards the same thing on the Ornn, so hasn't gone towards a Grasp of the Undying. He's into a ranged matchup. He would lose that matchup if you committed to Grasp. So sticks with the Ignite himself. If you don't have it, your opponent has it. You pretty much have a hard time in that lane. You may drop CS. You have a worse experience overall, so he does have to pick it up and match.
Marin is back. His last game in the LPL was 2016 for LGD. The great return. The stats that you just saw before that was the match predictions. Fans are saying that TOP are actually going to be victorious, but there's a knock-up onto Korn. He's forced to flash away.
That was actually a very nice interrupt there. The hook shot from Camille catching Korn as he wanted to dash back to safety. And of course, you have to dash back first before you go to safety. So gets in between it, wedges himself there, and does a bit of deeps, which is good for Swift. It means not only did they do the damage, but the Galio, who has got half of his mana left and no flash against a Cassiopeia that can pressure lanes pretty well, you could see return ganks there.
And take a look at where Karen is right now. Currently invading the Gromp on the bottom side. Choo Choo and Cat are pushed up. You can see some pings from Vici just a moment ago saying, hey, there might be a Kha'Zix here, so let's just sit back and play safe. And with all of this attention on the bottom side of the map, that's allowing Marin to just push up top.
Yeah, and you're looking at his runes currently as well. Inspiration primary, Sorcery secondary. And he's gone for Minion Dematerializer. He doesn't have the boots. It's 8.2, so he can still go for both of them, but opts out of it to have a bit more control in the lane. Kill those cannons, push the Ornn in, and do not let Ornn push you around. But also he's gone towards Sorcery and secondary, and that had the ultimate hat in there, and Celerity. So instead of having something like Scorch for a bit of damage every time he pokes you, he wants to ult more often, which means it should be an AP cannon.
Yeah, Cosmic Insight, Celerity. And that's going to be a lot of, and the ultimate hat, that's going to be a lot of slicing Maelstroms on the top half, and Meow is just on an absolute island up there, trying to catch wave after wave, already down 8 CS. You can even see some pushing in the bottom. Here on the bottom of your screen, you can see the nerfs to Ezreal in 8.2, losing a little bit of that early Mystic Shot damage.
Of course, Klepto slightly changed as well, but I mean, we're still seeing Ezreals here and there. I know I've played about 7 billion games of solo queue. Ezreal still exists. He's just not the primary focus of a lot of teams. However, in competitive, you'd still have that expectation. Ezreal's hard to kill. He has very good poke. He's very good at synergizing with other support champions. Brom's a perfect example of that is your Mystic Shocks. Actually, Shocks, now they are. They're shocking.
Mystic Shocks.
Shots start to proc the stun.
Ooh, Karen spots out Swift, almost predicting his position as he clears out the ward. Swift just places a second. Tactical sweep and the quick hook shot chunks him down to half. Karen leaps in, but doesn't quite have the burst to compete with that Camille.
Still a good trade from Swift. Karen, whilst he saw the target, should not have committed to any kind of fighting there. Immediately uses the Scrying Orb, and that gives Swift the perfect opportunity to turn and trade. Because he does that now, he gets a chance to fight mid.
Ooh, good Justice Punch from Korn as he spots that gank coming in and gets himself back to safety. And this is exactly what we expected from Swift. Invade, gank. I guess my only change was that I was expecting it to be top. Excuse me, on the top half of the map.
Don't worry, they're TOP, Dom. You'll get it.
Yeah.
But yes, perhaps that could have been where it is. I do think, though, when you look at the style of TOP specifically, Karen does like finding the opposing jungler. Swift is just the one doing the opposite of this. Now, there is a level advantage for Karen, but Swift keeps winning the trades, and that's just the matchup between Camille and Kha'Zix. More often than not, if Camille goes first, hits the hook shot, You get an attack speed bonus, you get the shield as well. There's no real way for a Kha'Zix to ever trade. If Kha'Zix gets onto you first, or if the hook shot misses, then there is a better opportunity, a higher window and chance for him to trade. But so far, Swift has had the jump. He's always there first, as you're seeing right now, getting all of the buffs and camps.
Just a few steps ahead of Karin, as Swift is wont to do. And it is so interesting when you consider how Swift has always been the aggressive jungler, and his mid laner has sort of had to take a supportive style role. When you contrast that with EasyHoon, who's the mage mid laner, it creates this interesting dichotomy. My question is, can Vici keep up with Swift, with this competition particularly?
I mean, it's at the moment, Swift isn't exactly in this massive lead. We mentioned an experience lead for Karin there in the jungle, but the lead is actually progressing through the middle lane. EasyHoon has a 15 to 20 CS advantage himself. Of course, we're looking at Ornn changes on the new patch, but EasyHoon, you just have to trust me, has a CS advantage, and he's controlling the middle lane. And that's the real benefactor here, is that EasyHoon has control of mid, which means he has the potential to be unlocked to then help Swift, to then reciprocate everything that Swift has been providing to him, and maybe even go towards another lane. And one of those lanes in question would actually be the top lane.
Yes.
Oh, don't die.
Up top, Swift with the smite to heal himself up. He's still
Still
coming awful close. Turns it back around. All right, should be able to get the kill. That's it. Finally with the recall completed. Still keeping pace with Karin as he's just tracking around the map. Hextech Ultimatum picked up for huge impact. Just about everyone has their ultimate now. And Korn, even though he is on the likes of that nice and safe Galio, is struggling in that mid lane. About 20 CS behind, 8 minutes in.
Yeah. I mean, Korn in the roster, of course, he is one of the new additions to the team alongside Mara. Now, we did have to say goodbye to Gung as a result of that, but the only reason this has happened is because Korn is Chinese and Gung is Korean. That is at least the speculation. They needed to swap him out, so they have to choose Maren over Gung, and then that's just really tragic for Gung above all else. He's fighting against Maren for his spot. But Korn now has a chance to step up to the plate and show that he has got what it takes to still be one of those top-tier mid laners. But we've seen him recently in the LPL. He came back after being relegated, performed poorly, disappeared again, and this is his third coming to the LPL. We have to have reasonably tempered expectations of him, unfortunately.
Yeah, Korn, not exactly a great showing last time he was here in the LPL, perhaps looking for redemption as he finds himself paired up against Vici Gaming. If he doesn't find redemption here, it's certainly going to be difficult against any other team in the LPL. As we can see some forward vision continuing to be pressed on this bottom half of the map. Swift and EasyHoon now moving in tandem to get some wards around this Mountain Dragon.
I think that's the important part there, Dom, is the Mountain Dragon. When you've got a Cassiopeia with a blue buff, neutral objectives, or a breeze, so they may actually put their attention towards the Drake and secure it. All the vision is solely around it. It's actually a circle around the Drake. And they've foregone, like, EasyHoon's pathing when he went back to the middle lane was not through the bush where there is a control ward. So he's just completely skipped it. He's going to have to start clearing some of that extra vision because they'll still have a pretty strong feeling that you're doing the dragon if you're missing and you're only inside that tiny little circle of vision that Vici have got.
This is their safe space. As Karin, whoa, looks to go in. The leap, they get the burst. Martin goes down in first blood. Caveman drops himself the Unbreakable and retreats to defend his turret, but there is no way.
Easy as you'd like from TOP. Cat being able to engage, of course, the Rakan gives no counterplay. You can't cleanse out of anything like that. So they are just left to dive, Martin. Now they're going to hold as best they can here, Caveman, but still the first kill goes to TOP. Good movements and good pressure now coming down onto this turret.
Yeah, Swift immediately tracking towards this bottom side, just in case TOP were going to look for that first brick. True Shot Barrage catches only Choo Choo, but he still gets the recall with Cat. As you said, never one without the other. Wait, that's Kindred.
Yeah, I know. I just thought it still makes a lot of sense here, Dom.
Okay.
It still feels right. You went with it for long enough.
I did.
So I'll take it.
And then even I was wrong. All right, Meow gets a forward ward on that top half of the map. He's still keeping up with Marin despite that constant pressure, not going to allow Marin to teleport in any case, despite the slight nerfs to Ornn in 8.2.
Marin also has a wealth of gold that I would imagine he is sitting on. The need to recall and buy himself a proto belt, I would expect, especially because he's gone towards the Kindle gem. It actually couples in nicely with all of the runes and itemization that you should be seeing from him as well. I think if he goes to the extreme and wants to ult all the time, then Boots of Lucidity may be seen, but I wouldn't like that. I'd prefer they were Merc Treads. But still, the Zhonya's, the Proto Belt, the active item cooldown from the Inspiration tree will do wonders for Marin once he completes those items. And that's the nature of AP Cannon opposed to the AD that we often see.
Yeah, that's Celerity and Cosmic Insight. True Shot Barrage for 1 minion to defend his turret. Martin and Caveman are having a tough time. They're only down 10 CS, but Chuchu and Cat are dominating the bottom lane.
They are a very good duo when it comes to laning, Chuchu and Cat, of course. We know them as the ability to roam in the 2v2 is prevalent there for them. That's a teleport ward, by the way, from Karen. They may make the play here. This might be that first opportunity. The teleport's free.
Yeah, quickness is back up for Cat. He's thinking about it. Minions are getting closer and closer, but they managed to find Karen in the river. Flash, engage, and the Hextech ultimatum. Galio with the hero's entrance. Teleport from both top laners, but it's the first kill to TOP. Martin on the far side. He joins in with Marin, who chases him down. Good knockup and an exhaust stalls that damage as Korn keeps EasyHoon from the fight. And Vici Gaming, they're retreating as best they can, but TOP, they're looking for the turret, and they're going to break it down.
Yeah, EasyHoon also left running away from Korn on the backside, but they're still going TOP.
Oh, Chuchu gets the snare. That's going to be a stopwatch as EasyHoon finally joins in. Cat goes too far. Knock up onto 3, but the flash from Korn gets another kill, and still TOP have got the momentum. Oh, enough damage from Martin.
The first target hit. Ezreal will get a kill on the back and just a return pick, however. And unfortunately for Vici, they are still the losers of that trade. They took the fight. Swift took the fight. He wanted it so
really
bad.
did.
But that was way too much. He went so far forwards to try and look for it. And ultimately, TOP were making the play regardless. They were set up for that moment. And the fact that Vici took it first just gave the go button to TOP, who executed as you would expect anyway.
Korn able to keep EasyHoon from the fight for so long, allowing that flank. And here's Swift. He just has to go in.
Even the flash, like he was almost in range to hit the stun, but let's say he hit the stun. What's the difference here? It's not a kill. It's still going to be getting away here for Karen. The ultimate from EasyHoon was also used on the side there. Marin gets in, gets exhausted, so he's not going to find the kills he's after. But the damage is already done here because the turret is one hit. They'll push in, they'll get the turret eventually. And from this point, Vici could leave. TOP could leave as well, but they're also just going to push their luck. Both teams pushing to the maximum. You see that from Chuchu here, wanting to find the target. Stopwatch helps a lot. If EasyHoon had ult here, could be easier kills, but not to be seen. EasyHoon has to cleanse and kite back and run away, and then just another kill goes over to TOP.
300 health. Yeah, Martin's able to get it. Blue buff taken by Karen here, as EasyHoon was holding on to the Prior, but TOP are immediately engaging onto Meow, Chuchu and Cat pushing onto this tier 2 turret.
It is a Abyssal Mask on. He has no defensive stats besides the health away from Rosiah and Rakan. He cannot hold the 1v2. He has to respect, but because he steps up, because he needs to clear the waves, he is made to pay for it, has to recall, and really awkward lane assignments coming back into this one for Vici as the result of that pick or trade.
Yeah, Swift looking for some vision behind them. He's going to be collapsed on by Cat with the immediate engage, and Karen has enough damage to get another kill for TOP.
Just one hit basically by Karen on the Kha'Zix. Completed Warrior Enchant and super strong when isolated. So they find the Camille, they kill the Camille, and it's right next to the Drake. Exactly what they want.
Just like that, the Mountain Dragon being taken at 3,000 gold advantage for TOP. They are finding their openings with very decisive plays, and TOP, they seem to be cool, calm, and collected, and it's Vici who are surprised by this action.
But it's hardly Marin as well, right? He's just been laning on the top side, had one teleport, was an okay teleport. Like, the teleport was fine, but there wasn't a game changer. He hasn't carried the team by being here just yet. It's actually just TOP. But you look at the other side, Swift may well be the problem.
Oh no!
Which pains me to say.
We're 15 minutes in, Rusty. Are we going in?
I'm saying this game,
all right,
calm down, all right? Jesus, that's extreme. No, in game, he's been caught out of position a lot. He's been a big part of the reason that TOP are getting advantages in this game, and they're able to find things. And I do think that, like, if we're going to go down that path, he is an upgrade for Vici, absolutely. But do Vici even know how to play with him? Because it's the first time we've seen him. He's new to the roster, and he's had to come in and try and make them improve. I highly doubt they know how to work with Swift.
Yeah, well, he did join in for the Chinese New Year. And we did hear from some members of Vici that Easyhoon has been practicing just about every day of the New Year for the past 10 days. He did not take a vacation. He continued to play out. And though Swift has joined and is trying to change the team by taking direction, by taking initiative, it seems like Vici aren't quite used to it just yet. They've still got some time. This is still a game that they can come back from. Nearly 35 CS ahead for Easyhoon. Meow, he's down about 40 CS, but he'll be getting nice and tanky as the game goes on. No changes to the defensive stats of Ornn, luckily.
Meow being down 40 is quite significant as well. It's not quite the Gangplank matchup, where 30 CS is an advantage for you as the Ornn. He's into a cannon who will be poking him constantly. Even the AP cannon has a lot of control in lane. Mara went for the Doran's Blade and the Cull. He's super strong. The cannon, conversely, to Meow, who will be tanky eventually, but not right now. Not when Chuchu is hitting him at all.
It is something that does pose a challenge for Vici, knowing, was that a ghost? Catch
Yeah,
is
they're
ghosted.
going.
He's going, looking for Easyhoon, who flashes and is able to escape with his life.
And Easyhoon is the person that we have to look at. Whilst he flashes to safety, has the clench. He's also rushed a Void Staff for himself with a Catalyst. Hasn't completed the Catalyst, doesn't want the Abyssal Mask yet, has a Tear, but straight to Void Staff. When you look at the opponent's items, I mean, there's Merc Treads and an Abyssal Mask. Is that only to kill Korn? Or is he investing in the future before completing a single item? Void Staff isn't efficient with just an Abyssal Mask either. That's not magic penetration on AP.
Ooh, well, perhaps predicting the longer laning phase, and Swift looks to help him himself. Shield of Durand keeps Korn nice and safe.
Teleports.
Double teleport. Game of chicken there is canceled by both of the top laners.
Korn is pretty tanky himself. Of course, we mentioned his itemization, the Abyssal Mask and some Ninja Tabi. He's able to disengage with the W. Be perfectly fine as the rest of the map does continue to flow, and it's the top lane outer turret that we'd be looking at. Mid lane, Korn can't fight Easyhoon, sure, because he has got the Void Staff. So if we pretend that mid's a 4v4, Galio will still be quicker to roam for the most part.
And look at the change-up from Vici. They're immediately trying to defend their top half of the map. TOP, perhaps identifying that weakness, continue to press their advantage with their duo up there. Even Karen hanging out just in case anything breaks down. Easyhoon was on his way too, but no action.
They wanted the pick, I think, here, TOP, but on the opposite side, Swift was there just to watch the turret, standing next to it and revealing himself to ensure that it doesn't go down. Just physical presence, trying to convey some kind of pressure. And he's still there, he's just doing the Krugs. This turret is very hard to take down now, though, for TOP, just because the Iceborne Gauntlet is there for Martin. Having that AoE on the Q, the slow on the minions, as well as the cooldown reduction and wave clear, should do wonders for them in holding that outer. I think the best case scenario here for TOP is actually focusing on two places at once. Looking towards perhaps the mid lane outer turret with the top lane outer turret. Bring two people mid if need be. Maybe you can draw Swift down, and then you can threaten the all-in on the opposite side of the map.
We do see a bit of forward vision from TOP on that top half of the map around the Raptor camp, so perhaps that could be something they look to set up for, as Marin, of course, with that teleport coming up very shortly, about a quarter of the cooldown left, will be able to join his team in another fight. But with all of this vision they're setting up, perhaps TOP could even look towards the Rift Herald, as Caveman is trying to contest this vision.
Oh no, they're not looking towards the Rift Herald, Dom. New name, same TOP macro.
Ah, yes, you're exactly right. That which spawns after Rift Herald.
Yes, that of which is purple and creates a game-winning buff for one of these teams indefinitely. Is also the place of defeat for them more often than not.
Gosh, I can't believe it. I'm so focused on Marin, I've completely forgotten about TOP's propensity towards the purple worm. And immediately, Vici, they're well aware of it. They've got their wards, they've got their vision, though. Still, two members top, plus Karin in the jungle, plus the Galio in the mid lane, and that teleport is right off of cooldown. So perhaps TOP could look for something as
running
Karin is just looking for it. Cat looks for the knockup, turns it around. Teleport going to be activated by Meow as he looks to join in. Chuchu is the target.
Join.
Call of the Forge God. It's going to get the knockup. No, Chuchu takes to the skies. Marin cancels his TP. And with all of that harass onto Cat, he turns and escapes. But now that's Marin controlling the bottom half of the map.
And you're looking at the top lane outer to be taken here by Vici as a response, no teleport, and their top laner being on that side of the map. So TOP, they respond, they say, we're not going to defend the top lane. In fact, we're going to hard push mid. And that's the big part of what was missing here and the puzzle pieces for TOP that needed to be placed down before they even look towards the Baron. It's the outer turrets. Mid lane needs to be taken. Top lane needs to still be taken. Vici are trying their hardest to hold these, to defend these, and actually expect that mistakes will be seen.
Marin from behind, he's found Swift, he flash engages and gets a kill. That's the initiation we're looking for. Another one onto Easyhoon as Choo-Choo easily sidesteps in and out. On the side, Karin gets sniped by Meow, but it looks like TOP, they find 2 kills and might actually lose one here as Cat is retreating away, saying, stay in range, I need to dash away. Oh, the knockup just outside. Finally, the tier 1 crumbles, but it's 6 kills to 2 as Marin takes matters into his own hands.
No teleport, no problem for the cannon. The team composition of TOP starts to show through and make a whole lot of sense for them as they actually get to execute it, right? You've got the Galio with the cannon, something you would expect from this team to be executed, but because he can start it off with the Q hitting, the auto attack hitting, easier chance of getting stuns. The immediate pick. Swift is having a very bad time, and Easyhoon was soon to follow.
Yeah, 0, 3, and 0. Only 2 kills on the board for Vici, and they are struggling to keep pace. Only 3,000 gold down, but that lead is sure to grow as, ooh, Martin takes the blast cone over towards that Ocean Dragon as Cat and Choo-Choo decide to respect it, allow Karin to finish off that dragon with his smite.
They wait for the smite to get here as real ultimates whilst on cooldown. They may not be tracking the timer, so they do show respect. And with that Drake secured, the bottom side of the map is now completely void. It's a place to teleport from, if anything. They're not going to be looking towards those structures when the Baron is up and available. We are seeing adaptations in build as well from Marin on the top side with Cannon. He's gone towards a Blasting Wand after Liandry's. So has acknowledged that perhaps he's so strong with a Galio ultimate being on him every single time that he doesn't need the utility of the Zhonya's present. In fact, he just wants to be dealing more damage. And I would actually expect that that is the Void Staff to be locked in as his 3rd item before Zhonya's so that he can keep being relevant in teamfights.
Yeah, shred everyone, including Meow, who's already building more and more tank items of his own. Meanwhile, Martin did take the first turret for Vici Gaming on the top half of the map. The top tier 1 finally crumbling. And now we see 3 members of TOP grouped up around the purple worm. Marin immediately says, "No, I don't think this is it." Recalls and heads back to base, but he does have teleport.
Well, it's because he's going bottom to teleport.
Yeah.
He's actually setting themselves up in a more macro sense for the objective.
Oh no.
There's a slight advantage in teleport windows here as well for the side of TOP. Whilst Meow doesn't have his, it's only about 20 odd seconds until that is up and available. So he goes bottom. He's able to at least feign that the teleport is available, and there's no pressure from TOP just yet onto the Baron. Just the single control ward to be seen inside the pit, where a lot of the vision on the top side of the Baron belongs to Vici. Most of the bottom side going from Baron to mid belongs to TOP.
And still Vici defend, holding on as best they can, sweeping out as much vision as possible around that Baron, not taking any chances. But Marin is still quite a threat in the bottom lane. Starts off blue buff, spots Meow. Look who's right behind him. Karin sneaking up with the stealth, getting good physical damage, slicing Maelstrom. He's stunned, but they decide to leap away as Easyhoon approaches. Smite and an auto from Marin secures blue.
Yeah, they're able to pick up the blue buff. They also put a pretty nice trade down onto Meow. Doesn't have a Warmogs. Will have to probably recall after clearing the waves if he wants to threaten any kind of teleports towards the Baron. Now, we did see the ultimate used by Marin. However, we mentioned his runes before. The Unsealed Spellbook is gone towards all of the ultimate cooldown reduction.
That's still a teleport. Call of the Forge God has an exceptional range. The slow tags onto Choo-Choo. He takes to the skies to leap over it as Cat sacrifices himself, and 5 members of Vici collapse. A second kill. Korn dashes away with the Justice Punch. They still tag him with the knockup and are going to find this kill. But what can TOP do in the meanwhile? Karin has his smite, and he might try to look for a steal.
It's just Karin, Dom. I think that's the only opportunity they have to try and take this one away. But with everybody alive from Vici, it's really difficult to get in as a Kha'Zix. So instead, they'll just resort to the trade of the bottom lane in a turret for Marin. A slight teleport advantage as well, but they get the Baron Vici. They get the picks before the Baron. Look at the gold difference between these teams, and that is a fresh Baron buff to be seen by Vici. This game is still very close to even.
Absolutely. A quick recall tops them all up on items. Abyssal Mask and Staff of the Seraphim completed for Easyhoon. You've already got the Blade of the Ruined King and even more, but here's that fight. Vici, just 5-man collapse. You can see it on your mini-map.
They absolutely smashed them on that collapse. Korn
joins in.
He does join in. Unfortunately, him joining in was also going to be the death of him. There's no escaping here. There was also a red buff and a Q proc there for Martin, but the flash to be safe from Meow gets to headbutt the wall and knock up that Galio. Third person dies, Baron secure.
Just the quick rush down strategy from Vici to capitalize on TOP's low mobility Xayah, trying to run away as fast as her bird legs can carry her, but you can't escape from 5 members of Vici.
The craziest thing here is that Swift was 0-3, now has 2 assists, doesn't even have a kill. But because they got the Baron, he did a full clear of his jungle and the top lane turret shortly before all of that. He's able to pick up the Trinity Force. And yes, it's late, but the amount of gold that he just had pushed into his wallet is able to pick up that major item purchase for him. And Swift can assassinate people now. Xayah, still fragile as build goes, just because the AD carry, of course. Every single time that Ornn ults, you have seen Chow ult as a response to that. And with that missing, Swift will one-hit you.
Creates a very difficult choice for Korn. Who do I protect with the hero's entrance? Do I focus on Chow and try to keep the AD carry safe, or put my faith in the hands of Marin,
I think we
the Season 5 world champ?
I think we rephrased the question as well to how are we fighting as TOP? Are we engaging or are we protecting? So if we're engaging and Galio doesn't use the ultimate onto a cannon, that's a major part of their combo gone for team fighting. He kind of has to. He could use it on the Rakan as well if they're engaging down that path. But if they're defending, they're running away, and he doesn't use it to defend someone that's going to be getting caught out of position by someone like Camille, then yes, the exact same thing happens on the opposite side.
Karin's trying to sneak around the vision. As you can see, Vici utilizing their blue buff. Sorry, Baron buff, much more important than blue buff. They take the bottom tier 1 and just put some pressure on in the mid lane, put some wards in the jungle. Now they're setting up a death brush in this pixel bush. Still, TOP playing respectfully. They're not going to take their chances. Karin with the recall heads back to base, and the waves are cleared out. TOP lose only a single turret so far to this Baron buff.
Yeah, it's the Infernal Drake that they're actually looking towards here, Vici. Some of the vision has been preliminarily set up as well, but they all recall as a team. They all get extra control wards. Just look at the scoreboard down the bottom there, and you'll see that pretty much everybody except for the person with a full item build has picked up control wards, and they want to look towards this Infernal. It's important for team fighting. It will help them a lot for the upcoming fight if they're able to secure this one down.
The damage amplification on that Cassiopeia is so massive. Now that's a teleport coming in. Dragon is picked up. Slow tags onto Cat.
Oh, teleport canceled too.
And it is. That's going to be once again. Choo-Choo leaps to the skies, but that's the ultimatum you were talking about. No chance for Choo-Choo to escape. He dies as the sacrificial lamb for Vici.
And he has to use the ultimate on the Ornn knockup or he will die regardless. Too many options of engaging here. And with the teleport cancelled from Marin, the miscommunication results in the rest of the team dying. The AD carry going. Baron is gone, yes, but with a member dead, they can still threaten the siege here. The next wave, if it's a cannon wave, will help a lot, and it is.
No true shot barrage, but Martin is already firing shot after shot with that Iceborne Gauntlet, breaking through the minions as fast as he can.
They do choose to disengage, however, as there's minions in respective side lanes to deal with and to attend to, so they will have to back away, and this gives opportunities. As Hookshot just missed the wall. I don't think Karen saw that, but also that
and
hit the wall.
Hextech ultimatum. Swift maybe
he's got his skills backwards.
Has to warm up his fingers a bit. Get himself back into the flow of things. As again, this is his first competitive game of 2018. Back on stage here with the likes of Vici.
Imagine just Wing the wall. Be like, I thought it was longer range.
Wait a sec, that's not it. And now Karn heading back to base to restock up on those wards and get himself back onto the map. The next dragon is another Infernal. So 30 minutes in, it's even in kills, it's even in gold. 2 dragons to 1. And this game is a little bit closer, I think, than we expected with the likes of Marin and Swift joining both of these teams.
Yeah, Vici have found themselves with a gold lead. And yes, it's not a substantial number, but they were behind. And it felt very behind. I mean, we already mentioned how Swift have been playing this game so far. Well, he's actually turned things around, and he's been a big part of the kills and the picks that have equalized the kill score between each respective team. And suddenly, with the game being pretty much equal, Baron gone, gold even, we have to look at what is the next steps for each of these teams. There is a 1-3-1 available for TOP if they would like. Korn has gone towards more of an AP Galio build, so he does have a lot of damage. And whoever isn't against the Ornn does have the threat of assassinating their respective opponent there. So ultimately, TOP could look towards a 1-3-1 if they would like. But really, you're looking at the whole composition. You're saying, well, the 3 is okay, but from what we know of what Vici will do to the 3-man unit here, they'll die. And they'll have a very bad time. So Korn has to be grouped. He has to be able to ult the target. The teleport has to be available from Mar, and he can't cancel it anymore. They found themselves in dire straits for execution of composition.
You can see TOP setting up a death brush just on the top side of the jungle. A ward gets placed and immediately cleared. Vici don't take any chances. True Shot Barrage was used bottom by Martin in that last wave, so that's slowly pushing in, but Marin is already on this side of the map. Swaps over with Korn. So trying to keep Marin close to the team just in case, and Vici seem to be well aware of this potential split push strategy and just aren't taking any chances with it. Staying grouped, staying safe.
And of course, in true Vici fashion, they'll slow it down to their pace. They'll make you dance to the beat of their drum. Marin now control ward to control ward. He's completely covered. The flank is possible. Galio is also rotating up, and he has got the flash. Vici will respect it. But you're seeing these opportunities open and present themselves. If they ever step up Vici, Marin is standing there waiting.
So much respect. The cannon is missing. We don't see him top. We don't see him bottom. Martin shows himself, but he's going to hop away with that arcane shift. Still keeping himself safe, and Marin finally decides, you know what, I'll back away.
He doesn't need to be anywhere else. He is choosing to be the Korn as far as the dynamic goes. He's not going to be split pushing now. The Galio was. Because Galio's ultimate's still relevant across most of a single lane, so if it's a bottom lane to mid lane skirmish, then Korn is super relevant. Whereas if they're fighting top and bottom, then I would say Marin would be the one split pushing throughout most of this lane. Assignment's going, the speed is going.
With the engage, there's the hero's entrance. Knock up onto 2. Marin still looking for the opening. He's holding on to the Maelstrom as Korn Zanya's early. He's going to be slowed. Flashes back, knocked against the wall. Marin goes in, delayed engage with a huge 2 kills. Turns over to Easyhoon and shreds through his health, but can he compete? His team is dying on the other side. Marin's so low. Oh, slays his former teammate in a trade. Meanwhile, TOP win the excess fight.
Yeah, very prolonged fight. The re-engage from TOP was super clutch there. Great combo from them. Not just the first part with Rakan going forwards, but the secondary of Marin. And that was enough to tip the balance. Korn held his W for most of the start of the fight. Now, TOP, they win it. They get everybody dead from Vici. They choose not to Baron. Instead, they run down mid lane where the minions were already set up. Very smart decision, as they can choose to even end if they're going to try.
Yeah, look at those death timers. 12 seconds for Martin. Recall started. Korn goes back.
It's one turret and back,
Caveman,
surely.
He's going to be the unbreakable, trying to stop Choo Choo's damage. Teleport coming in from Korn. They are trying to end this. Martin is just now getting back up.
This is risky.
Like you said, that's Martin back on the field. 1 turret goes down. Swift chasing out with the home guards, trying to sidestep these minions.
TOP may have just overstayed their welcome by a significant margin, Dom.
That's Call of the Forge God ready for Meow. He catches up to Cat, slow onto 3.
Hit 'em
knock
all.
up onto 3.
Oh.
Follows it up with another one, and Vici with the turnaround.
They reach way too far, TOP, and Vici punished them now straight to the Baron buff. Mid lane is the only inhib that is down. They're able to defend it. Karin is the last bastion of hope for stealing it. And if he steals it, I think this game is just over.
Yeah, Marin's on the side. He was spotted out by a ward. It's 2 versus 5. And like
Minions
you
are
said,
set up though as well.
Karin is behind him, trying to get some vision. Not even clearing out that ward. Sweeper is used, trying to get some vision onto the Baron. He can't quite do it. 1,500 health, but the miasma prevents his entrance, and now Swift is off to put that bug to bed.
Yeah, just at the time he was going to jump, super well done from Easyhoon. Prevents him from going. Karin now in a very awkward position, has had to run through the entire jungle, now going towards the Infernal Drake, and maybe wants to lock that down. We see the engage on this fight as well. Cat flash forwards, hits the double knock-up. Doesn't matter if you QSS, Martin has to flash straight afterwards as well. Now the flash is gone from the Ezreal. Fight ensues. Korn still has not used his W. Flashes away, wants to dash away, and then suddenly EasyHoon says go, so he has to turn around. But Marin's engage was so good that it didn't really matter if there was no follow-up from the rest of his team. He does all the work himself, and yes, the Korean champions trade their lives in the end, but TOP still came out victorious in the first part of that fight.
Yeah, you've got to imagine they shared a smile as those kills were traded over, but still, Vici back with the Baron. It's even in gold, and though the inhibitor is down, they should have no problem handling these super minions that are crashing in wave after wave. And TOP against Vici, 36 minutes in this game. Neither of these teams want to be last place. And at the end of this set, that won't be the case for one of them. Question is, who?
They're fighting to at least get a victory here. It never feels good to be without one. So still a lot of tension between them. Not just because of rosters now that we have two world champions facing off. The first time we're seeing them compete against one another. But also just the fact that Vici, they've taken a game off EDG. They know they can win games if they play to their best. They're trying to replicate that. You mentioned EasyHoon. No break during the Chinese New Year. Wants to just play League, improve as much as he can. Working with Swift now quite well when they get the engages and getting those fights off and pushing with the Baron buff. But unfortunately, they only have one lane to push.
You're exactly right. I mean, take a look at that CS difference with EasyHoon. 65 CS ahead as TOP, with some unfortunate recalls, leave mid completely open.
It's more so that Karen is top lane whilst EasyHoon, whilst Marin. I keep getting them mixed up. Marin is bottom.
They're different people, Rusty.
You don't know that. Whilst Marin is bottom, of course. He has got the teleport. Karen does not. So Vici, recognizing that, will just push forwards and they'll start taking away free turrets. Karen also wanting to clear this wave, knowing full well that the mid-inner would go. Trying to slow down the pace of the push here from Vici. So he clears the wave, trims the hedges on the top side, and perhaps slows down this turret being taken.
Yeah, take a look at Marin. He's sitting in base with that teleport ready, but so diligent. Vici have already swept out nearly every ward. True Shot Barrage to prep for this next siege as Baron's only up for 45 seconds. And still the damage is going to be coming in. Can TOP defend? Once the miasma is placed down, Martin steps up.
Cat has flash, so a big part of their engage is available. Marin does have flash himself, so all of the options, all of the tools are there for TOP if they want to pick a fight, pick a 5v5. Now what they should be doing is trying to keep Vici around. They've got maybe one more wave, two more waves before mid super minions start to cascade and crash in. And with only one Nexus turret standing, TOP should actually be playing this one out like they're maybe picking a fight. They're not sure if they should, but really they're not actually trying to fight at all until the time comes.
That time might just be now. Baron wears off, no extended duration from anyone on Vici.
And now you want to try and stop them. You're absolutely right, Dom. Now's a good chance if they can. You see the pings now on the mid lane if they can stop people from recalling. And Vici, very diligent, very safe in where they're going to be recalling.
Pulling all the way back to their safe ward line. Their inhibitor has respawned, and though minions are crashing onto it, EasyHoon is making his way towards it to defend. He even has Meow next to him just to hold on. True Shot Barrage for safety.
For super dead, of course, they will hold this inhibitor, and we find ourselves at dead even then between these teams instead.
39 minutes, 11-11. This game is very close. And as it scales more and more, we're seeing that Cassiopeia approach 6 items at 4.5 already. Looks like 6 items finished for Martin. 6 items for Choo Choo.
Items everywhere, man.
TOP, they're trying to keep pace. They're getting awfully big.
Even the Zonya's done for Marin on the top side for the cannon, so he's actually able to contribute further to being a primary engage now, not just Rakan. We've mentioned their team fighting at length, how they've got all of the different combos with the Galio. Vici on the opposite side do have a very good composition at saying come at us, and we can counter-engage ourselves. The Ornn ultimate, Cassiopeia ultimate, the Ezreal and Braum combo as well, being able to kite and poke very successfully. I feel like that's why we've found ourselves at this equalization point, is if the gold is equal, TOP have to engage. But Vici are also very good at just letting them engage and counter-engaging themselves even better.
Yeah, that being said, though, Marin finding the huge slicing Maelstrom flanks, not once, not twice, but 3 times in this game. I mean, even if Vici do have a good counter-engage opportunity. You have to take in the wild card of the world champion, Marin, still finding an opening. 150 CS ahead of his opponent.
He's pretty far ahead.
He's pretty big.
When it comes to the old farm differential, there's no farm for Meow. There's nowhere for him to actually pick up CS. He is struggling to find a lane. You can see he's gone towards the Locket build, and usually when the Ornn has picked up Locket, he's like, okay, from this point, I'm not farming. That's why I'm building Locket. I am now a second support for the team. And then you look at the damage they've got. Well, Swift is able to compensate a significant number of that, which is, again, why he's not finding a lot of farm. You're seeing Meow currently try his best to look at minions, but he got none of them.
He's a bodyguard at this point in the game, trying to keep Easy Hoon and Martin safe. Now, Elder Dragon is up in 20 seconds. It's a minute for that Baron. TOP already setting up some vision. Cat being a human ward on top of wards, but he does have the safety of Choo Choo to fall back on. And Marin is just being an overwhelming force on the top half of the map.
And with the Elder in 5 seconds, the question's always going to be there. The respawns of both neutral objectives are actually pretty close to equal in timing. We've got 25 Baron Elder now. You have to look at where the vision goes. Where do these teams focus? And, you know, if TOP are a big team fighting team, do they look at the Elder? Vici have kicked it off.
Yeah, Martin immediately engages the Elder Dragon. Look at
TOP
the shred that they're doing with only 4 members. Teleport immediately started for Marin. He's trying to show up behind them. That's a teleport from Meow to get in as Karin loops around to the far side. And Vici give up the Elder Dragon. Marin, he's holding on to it, but the engage. Swift goes in. Call of the Forge God. He turns it around. You want a piece of this? You're gonna get it. Marin finds one as TOP fight on the far side. A double kill. And TOP clean up in the river. Easy Hoon dies. The Guardian Angel keeps Korn alive as Meow. Not only will he not get minions, he won't get a chance to escape. As it looks like TOP win this fight, and very well could win the game.
And Cat could just stop Meow from recalling the entire time. He's just running around. Meow needs to try and clear the wave as best he can, but TOP have decided, well, he's going to clear mid. We're probably just going to push bottom, and at the very least, they'll be getting inhibs from this. It should just be game over, but they are playing with their food a little bit here, TOP.
Yeah. Finally finishing off Meow. The inhibitor goes down. It's 15 seconds before that support is going to spawn, before Swift makes it onto the map. TOP finish the job. They take game number 1 over Vici.
And it was a big fight from Marin in the end that does tip the difference here. The balance shifts towards TOP. Massive team fighting prowess. And Vici left wondering why they made the decisions they did. Because ultimately, whilst it was good from TOP, they just caught a throw, basically, from their opponents on the other side. They did not actually burn the Elder. They baited it. And then TOP walked in, they turned and burned. And then they team fought afterwards with an Elder Dragon buff. Well, that was all too easy for them, wasn't it?
That was exactly the plays that we saw Swift make in the early game, where he said, I am going to start a fight right here. Vici, I hope that you follow me. And they just couldn't quite catch up to him in time. And just like that, TOP used that opening to turn around a kill, to finish off the Elder Dragon. The idea was there, but the execution was not.
Yeah, and what was sound was even how they started to kite away from the Elder Dragon. You know, we saw a lot of positives from Vici in that game. They disengaged, they tried to pick off Karin on the backside, but one mistake can cost you the entire thing when you get to 40-odd minutes and the gold is dead even. And the team fighting composition of TOP does prove far too strong when Vici try and meet them in the battlefield on equal footing with that 5v5 team fight. Well, special mention does go to Cho Cho, who played very well on the back half.
Yeah, massive damage during that game, but take a look at that gold graph. That's like a heart rate monitor, up and down, swinging back and forth. Still a very close match, though we did see TOP close it out victoriously. And Marin, it seems like he brings the confidence that TOP needed to find these fights. They won through the lane, through the bottom lane as expected. Korn did suffer a little bit in the mid lane, but they didn't play through Marin to get an advantage into the early game. They used him to propel him in the mid game.
Yeah, they definitely used him as a big pivotal point for the team, though, using the teleports there and diversified the strategy just that little bit more. And for TOP, one of the big weaknesses they had was individual roster strength. Marin does actually help that out a whole lot, and we saw individual moments from him there, and they're able to get that game 1 victory, I think, just by being slightly better on that individual front as well as team fighting well.
Yeah, very good signs from TOP, but now let's hear from our analysts about that game 1.
Thank you, guys. With that, TOP are now 1 game up over Vici, and I like what Dom and Rusty were talking about there. The fact that Marino propelled them through the mid-game, but really bringing it back to picks and bans. TOP were able to pick up Galio and Rakan, and my friend Bryce Egan Paul back at the OPL was telling me about this combo last year when Galio got reworked, when Rakan was first released. If you put these two together back then when they were both in the meta, it was unstoppable. You could not win a match against it. Still pretty good now, not that unstoppableness, but TOP used it really well.
Yeah, very strong team fighting, very strong decisiveness, I'll say. If a call is made, that team fight is likely successful. What I liked about the composition was not only that well-roundedness in the team fight, but strong side lanes as well, because not only were they allowed to get Galio and the Rakan together, but the Xayah as well. So the Lovers duo on the bottom side had a lot of pressure. And it wasn't just that, because the Kennen pick going up to the top side of the map had a good lane, even though it was a blind pick, because Vici tried to have safe picks in both bottom lane and top lane to scale up. They lost the ability to get the stronger top side of the map, so what ended up happening was just that they were on a time limit. Vici were just on an early game time limit, trying constantly to force plays through the mid lane, because ultimately their towers on both top and bottom side were under threat.
And that's kind of what we saw, because, I mean, Swift was throwing a couple of jabs here and there, trying to track down Karin. Karin evaded him. He landed that first heavy blow in the bottom lane, picked up first blood, got the teleport water, kickstarted that big team fight for them. As we mentioned, Swift tracking Karin well, got the ganks to the mid lane, but all he could do was burn a couple of flashes.
And that's the thing. This is where the problem really lies, is because even though he was trying to track Karin, Karin had a very strong early game, because his first 3 minutes was him taking red buff into blue buff, so he didn't want to take any early game skirmishes up against the Camille, because that was one thing you have to be afraid of. Goes towards the bottom side of the map just so they can get the pressure, and you're talking about the ganks that were happening through the mid lane. So even though the mid lane and the jungle matchups were heavily in favor of Vici, they didn't want anybody to do it. You even saw an Aftershock Galio, just because even though the ganks went through, he's run into the resolve tree, so it was very hard to even blow his flash. We saw a 3-man gank towards the mid lane, and he only lost about like 30% of his HP.
And on top of it, I know everyone back at home really wants to talk about that elephant in the room. Marin.
Yep.
He left the LPL with the Kennen pick in the top lane. He comes back in his first game, he picks it up again, Raz. And we're going to show you guys a replay of the team fights that he was able to dish out on this Kennen. We've already talked about the team composition here, and this was really well executed by TOP.
Yeah, they waited a long time, because this started out with the Galio ulti, the Rakan ulti, all coming in there, and they played it back. They allowed Vici to walk up forward. Ezreal didn't have his flash, didn't have his E as well. He's the first one to die off of it. That was incredible play of the man of the match in Marin.
Even used his QSS to try and get away from this guy. But there's no getting away from his Kennen. He is able to find you and find you. That TOP were able to pick up a victory off the back of that team composition. And Raz, they weren't, you know, flawless in this game.
Yeah, they were.
TOP was still making a couple of mistakes here and there.
I just was so surprised in some of the decisions they made, because when they got that team fight, they go towards the mid lane. You get yourself an inhibitor. Great. You have a Baron behind you. Back away. They go for a Nexus tower? Like, it felt like they thought they could do it, but their maths didn't work out properly, and they were like, wait a second. They're all up. Let's skedaddle. And it was like, wait a second. TP's coming through. We're all dead, and we lose Baron. And it was like, all right, well, you know what? Just back away. It turned into a very back-and-forth game, but TOP really had a very solid early point of the game, and I like to see that. Want to see it happen in game 2.
Yeah, they're able to execute on their team composition perfectly fine early on the match and propelled themselves to victory. With that, now, TOP, they are 1 game away, if they pick up a win, from ending a losing streak that propels across multiple seasons. We're going to go into a quick break, but don't touch that browser, because we'll be back with game 2 shortly.